If you're elected to Congress, with foreign policy in the back of your mind, what boards or what would you like to be sitting on? What commissions and why? Give us some background.
Who's first?
You're starting.
I'm starting? Okay. Well, I've had, again, 26 years in the military, and as a senior officer and a colonel, you're dealing with national security at the highest level. Again, with my education and my background in that, and the last job I was doing as a professor of national security studies at a place called the Marshall Center. So I've got a strong background in national security. We got some serious threats facing our nation, okay? The closest to home is the transnational criminal organizations that are just south of us, that are trafficking people and drugs and weapons and money in and out of our neighborhoods. And I've been dealing with transnational criminal organizations and how to address them in other parts of the world in my military assignments. And so this is serious business, and we need someone who's going to understand how we need to have a good strategy against them with intelligence-driven operations, using the technologies and manpower and fences at the border with the appropriate use of air in order to monitor, detect, and intercept illegal activity. It's not rocket science, but I've got the expertise to do that. So Homeland Security is certainly the way to go on that one. Look, the Appropriations Committee is where the money is spent. So people say, hey, maybe I should be in the Armed Services Committee. That is about policy, but right now it's about where's the money going. Are we going to right-size our military to make sure we're able to deal with the threats that are coming around the corner, to include a potential nuclear state sponsor of terrorism in Iran, to include the potential cyber threats that are coming out of some of our other peers? We need a strong nuclear deterrent. We need missile defense. We need air and naval power in order to gain access. We need good special operations forces. We got to have a strategy out there that then is right-sized, and we spend that money, because that is a role of the federal government. Right now, we've got a budget-driven strategy, and that's not the way to be dealing with the threats that are coming around the corner and potentially facing our nation. I've got the breadth of experience. I'll serve on the committees they ask me to, but Armed Services and Appropriations, for sure, is you can talk policy all day long, but appropriations is where the money is being spent. So you want to make sure we're sending it to the right forces in order to make sure we're defending against those threats that are coming against us.
Okay, very good. Mark?
Yeah, I would say similarly. I mean, the money is in appropriations. If you can get lucky enough to get assigned to that, certainly the Board of Security committees or subcommittees are a place that mean something here. I really think.
Please? Thank you.
You're welcome. You know, the Border Security and Homeland Security committees and subcommittees are what are important for our community here. But the biggest ability for us to have a good foreign policy is to have good domestic policy, to be strong again and not to be seen or viewed as weak around the world economically and as far as strategy goes and policy. So similarly on the committees. Nothing different there.
Does anybody have a, yes, sir, Patrick?
Yeah, both of you, whoever wins, how do you see that you can beat Ron Barber?
Take this one first. If nothing else, and we've been very civil. I think everybody's been kind of amazed how civil we've been to each other. I think the argument against Ron Barber is very clear. And can you turn that camera? I don't want to give away all our secrets. Okay. We had 2 years ago, we had an election, Gabrielle Giffords won, okay? And when we had the special election, I think there was a lot of sentiment in the community that said, this is what we signed on for 2 years ago, and we'd like to see that term filled out that way, okay? And Ron Barber won, and so he's got the seat for 5 or 6 months, all right? I think everybody is intelligent enough to look at the situation we are in now, to close the chapter on that, close the chapter on that book, turn that page, look at a fresh assessment of where we are, and say, what do we need now? And the Supreme Court laid it out beautifully for us in the Affordable Care Act case. They said, you, the people, have the power. It is we, the people, who send people to Congress who are the ones who make these things happen. And they said, you have a choice. You have a choice to send people who are going to vote for ever-expanding government that will tax you for what you do or what you don't do, or you can send people who are going to put the reins on it, going to take the federal government back to its limited powers, make sure that it's being responsible. That is the stark choice that faces voters in November. It faces them here in our district. It faces them around the country. I think given that stark contrast, that we will keep all the Republicans, we will get more than half the independents, and we may even be fortunate enough to get some blue dog Democrats. I really don't think we can lose. We have the numbers in this district. And there's no reason why we shouldn't keep those numbers when the situation is as stark as that. Thank you.
CD2 is 35.5% Republican, 33.5% Democrat, and 31% independent. Okay, so you don't have to be a math major to figure out that we need some unity within the Republican Party, and you need to be able to appeal across the political spectrum in order to win this race. The people of Southern Arizona decided Ron Barber was their right choice to serve out Gabby Gifford's term. That election in June was about the past, and the election in November is about the future. And in order to win in this district, you have to have the right profile, you have to have the right message, and you have to have the funds. Okay, I learned a lot in my jumping into this campaign last February. I certainly didn't know a lot about how to run for office, but I have been called a quick study before, okay? So when it comes to profile, this is a presidential election. People are coming out and voting, and a lot of them are not necessarily coming out to things like this and really studying the issues and the candidates. You have to have the right profile. My profile, my background of service, of education, of proven leadership, of solving complex problems, of making things happen, that's a profile that appeals across the spectrum. Being a pioneering female fighter pilot taking on the Pentagon is a profile that appeals across the political spectrum. Being someone who has served and knows how to defend our military bases here and the defense industries that we have here is something that I know firsthand. I don't need a staffer to talk to me about that. That will appeal to voters as opposed to the alternative Ron Barber. So I have that profile. I have a better message. I have a business-friendly message. Ron Barber continues to vote with Rahul Grijalva for the most part, and especially on economic issues. And that is not what the people of Southern Arizona are looking for. There are business people out there that are registered Republican, Independent, and Democrat, and they are looking for taxes to be low, not taxes to be increased. They're looking for regulations to be right-sized and roll back, not to be suffocated by that. They're not looking for new mandates and taxes on their businesses through government-run healthcare. That's not what they're looking for. So I got the profile, I have the message. The third issue is the funds. Ron Barber will raise over $1 million or more again in order to get his message out to voters. We need to be able to compete with that. Let's be honest with each other. I raised over $250,000 so far, and we are ready to beat him in November, and I'm looking for your support.